be with two beautifully talented actresses, and two of my OG Los Angeles friends in Della Saba and Jess Nurse right now. I'm very, very lucky. And first, I want to thank Jeremy and Olivia for having us for this. This is pretty cool. They started something called Artists in Residence. This is pretty new. Olivia Daniels and Jeremy Furman created this. It's a platform for us as creative people to connect and collaborate with one another while we're away and in quarantine. And all the initiatives in this group center on community engagement and conversation. And the chief goal is to support and advocate for artists while we go through a challenging time. And, mental health is at the forefront of that. So today's panel is about talking about what it's like to be an artist in LA and what that means during this totally weird time. I want to kick it off just by saying how awesome it is that the three of us are still friends after it's almost 10 years, you guys, right?
More.
Oh, I was going to say not quite.
It was 9.5, something like that.
Is it almost our anniversary?
Well, summer
2011?
2011, right? Yeah.
But Doug, I've known Doug a little longer.
When did you guys meet?
Freshman year of college for me. Yeah, we did.
I sort of remember this, but I also.
I'm a year younger than Doug. Doug and I went to NYU together, and I feel like the freshmen always remember the older kids more than the older kids remember the kids that are younger. So it's okay.
I feel cool being the older kid, but that doesn't matter at all anymore. So,
But yeah,
Doug, we met in New York too, actually.
Showcase.
At the showcase, we had these photos done for the end of year thing, and they combined the conservatory kids with the NYU kids, and I had my elbow on your knee, right?
How could I ever forget this?
I didn't think we talked. I think I just put my elbow on your knee and smiled like
that was all we needed to have a 9.5-year friendship.
Yeah.
So she also went to NYU. Yay.
Oh.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that either. So that's a cool connection because Jer actually, speaking of OG LA friends, is our OG LA friend, and that's sort of how we're all together. But I didn't know, I forgot that Olivia went to NYU, so that's so cool. So what's it been like, you guys? I mean, I know that it was bad in New York in March, and it's bad in LA now. And how, like, Della, how are you handling it in your day-to-day? Is it something where you feel like you can be creative on a daily basis, or what's that routine like for you?
Yes, I feel like I think I'm sure for every single person, right? It's been like a whole ride. So I feel like it depends on when you check in with me is how it's going. I'll speak for, I don't know, I feel like there's definitely been some really good things creatively. I feel like having time has definitely reframed a lot of, I do feel like I've been creative through all of this, but I think the time has definitely, I don't know, taken a pressure off the way I've been approaching creativity. Everything feels very much, again, because of the isolation, I feel like I'm making or doing or acting or drawing. Everything feels a little bit more just for me, weirdly, just it is just for me right now. So I do feel creative. I also feel the opposite, where I am really, like, especially today, feeling a little loopy, and like, when you haven't connected with anyone, and to really frame, I've learned why I got into acting. With the absence of connection, I realized how much I need it. And so today feels I'm getting stuff done, but feeling like a little bit floaty in that isolation bubble.
That's so true. I've found that, like, you can be productive but still feel strange about your day. Like, it's not something that I felt like I experienced back before the pandemic, frankly. It's just sort of like, okay, I'm getting stuff done, but to what end necessarily? Like, sometimes it can be easy to be discouraged by that and kind of like get in your own head about it, I suppose. Yeah, I did get a chance to go on a camping trip last month, and that was like so awesome and totally necessary. But I had a moment where like it started hailing while we were in these in the tents, and like all of us sort of dove into these tents, right? And then we were in there for an hour, and I got out afterwards, and all of us looked at each other and were like, it was way too introspective in there. And like it just sort of felt like that was a like the whole like roller coaster of quarantine was summed up in that one like 30 minutes where we were all stuck in those tents. And I felt like that, like, oh, it's so easy to be introspective in this time, and that can be so useful. But like sometimes you really don't want that, and you're trying to fight against it. So
So true. What about you, Jess?
Um, like the what has COVID been, or kind of the introspection aspect of it?
Both.
Both. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting time. I think I have felt like I've developed creative routines for myself. Um, I felt I felt really creative actually during this time, and I think because there are a lot of like pressures that happen in life circumstances and things where it's like, oh, I have to show up for this person, or I have to do this my part-time job, or I have to, all of the things that kind of, and within acting can be so kind of freelance and so kind of like you're at the whim of other people. And so in a weird way, being given like time and being given time for me to like figure out, okay, how do I want my days to work, how do I want my weeks to work, like I've been able to kind of um, put myself into stuff that I didn't, I yeah, I didn't have maybe the like freedom to do it before.
mm,
But at the same time, it's so true. Like the isolation of this thing can be really tough. And I know that Doug, you have been, alone at times and with family at times, and Dell, you've had a roommate. Like I've been in a 300 square foot apartment for the
yeah.
past like 7 months, and so I think like to kind of balance your mental health within that, you have to be really like in some ways I'm proud of the ways in which I've been like, okay, like you need to get outside, like you need to go on your balcony, and like you need to develop these routines, and like okay, you have to actually ask like friends to FaceTime. Like you can't just like you gotta do the uncool thing and be like, I'm having a hard day, like can I
Yeah.
and so you have to be proactive about the ways to kind of feel sane throughout all of this, and like have compassion for what you need in order to do that. So I don't know if I answered that question, but yeah.
That's no, I totally. And I will say though that one of the upshots of this whole scenario is that like prior to the pandemic, the three of us got to see each other maybe twice, three times a year because we're so busy. Like we're busy going out, hitting the pavement, working, and it was hard to actually physically get together. And now it makes me appreciate so much how important that was. But also, we've gotten to see each other like maybe 10 or 12 times, something like that. And Jess, you're hosting these readings on Friday nights, and that's been such a cool upshot of this whole thing, is get a chance to see these artists every week. I don't know if you want to talk about it at all. It's super cool, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I don't want to talk. No, I at the beginning of quarantine, I I've kind of been getting really excited about writing. I'm an actor and a writer, and at the beginning of this year, I signed with Lit Management, and so I've felt really called and drawn to learning more about learning as much as I can about writing as I'm kind of attempting to be staffed on a show or to have something sold or anything like that. And so started this thing every Friday night and asked all of my wonderfully talented actor friends, including Doug and Della, if they would read parts where we read a half-hour television show every Friday night. And we've done 16 so far. And for me, it's a really cool exercise in, a lot of Los Angeles auditioning and acting is for television. And to learn to kind of like be able to discuss TV in an academic way and also from the point of view of actors and to play roles that we've like, binged The Office and binged New Girl, but all of a sudden you get to kind of play those parts. Um, I think that there's a lot to be like mined from that. And so, and then for me, just from a writing point of view, it's really honing the skill of understanding like what makes a good pilot and what draws you into characters and how do you plant the seeds of a season long, series long character arc and all sorts of stuff. So that's been really exciting, and we're on a break right now, but we'll be coming back to it.
Yeah. For one, particularly love getting to play coach in Cheers. I actually never seen that show before. I mean, I know the like everybody knows your name. Like that's all I knew about the show. And then I was like, wait, this is tremendous. It's making me want to go back and really like look at the history of the pilot and the sitcom and like how that's developed over time. It's a cool rabbit hole to go down. And as you said, Jess, like that's something that we can afford ourselves the time to do. And it like now you have to curate your own artistic growth in this time, right?
Do you know what that is so on the nose of what I think it is actually being able to investigate things that you care about. Like Jess, you love these pilots and now you've created this night where you get to really dissect it and spend time with it. And I think that's something again that in a more specific way, just to really be able to be like, I want to nerd out to this. So
Yeah.
now for like at the beginning of COVID, I read this book. Has anyone read Bluets?
No.
I'm sure I don't know. It's the Bluets. I don't know. Just like a woman who wrote. It's a whole book about the color blue.
Mm.
And in the first couple weeks of COVID, I was just like, blue is the coolest thing. And I was listening to music about the color blue. The color blue was just standing out so much. And it is kind of, you never normally get that time to really like delve into.
Has that been the nerdiest rabbit hole that you went down, Della? Or was
I'm trying to think what is the nerdiest.
Yeah.
That might have been one, but that felt very artistic at the same time. But what is the nerdiest?
Creative indulgence that doesn't feel indulgent, because what else are we supposed to be doing? Like they're indulge, like which has the connotation of like, ooh, like guilty pleasure, but like indulge in the thing that you're drawn to, indulge in the creative avenues that you're interested in. And you've also been doing play readings, right, Del?
I've been doing play readings. I'm part of a theatre company, so we've been doing play readings. And even with that, I have a book club. And even that, I think, like, the way I've always seen creativity before COVID was a lot of it was kind of given to me and I had to find my way in. And this feels like again, following that sort of path, I'm finding plays that kind of I stumble across one and stumble across something else. And I don't know, it's been easier to connect to things in a different way. Like I think about even in drama school, right? The plays we were told to read.
Yeah.
And there was a set plays that they always said, you must read this, you must read this. And sometimes I had quite a hard time kind of connecting to some of these plays. A lot of them, I don't know, like Pinter's great, but I didn't always like understand why I had to love it. And to just be reading so many plays that are being recommended by friends with similar mindsets or contemporary writing or things like this, it's definitely I don't know, made me reassess how I've been looking at things. I think I was always trying to fit into something rather than sort of it happening more organically. Does that make sense?
Do you have a favorite piece that you've gotten to read like throughout this time?
Oh, I feel like I've been reading so many. Every week, everything's kind of been blowing my mind. I feel like, Jess, I've been telling you some of the ones along the way. There was, I think, One I just read was Sweat by Lynn Nottage.
Yeah.
Oh my God, because I'm not from America, obviously. And that really made me understand like I don't know what's going on. It's set in the 2008 financial crisis in Pennsylvania, I think. Oh, great play, yes. And I had never read it, and it really made me understand, yeah, parts of America I've never been to, and sort of the divide and what's been going on. And also,
So good. Why did I think? Maybe I'm thinking of a different Lynn Nottage though.
what are you thinking of?
That's the one that's set in Africa.
I don't know. Should I Google it?
But anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, that was it really. That was the one most recent one, and then one that I think I said, Jess, I know I told you was, is it Celine's Song or Celine Strong? But there was this play called Endlings, and
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a woman who just, I don't know if anyone saw it. Apparently there was a swimming pool when they did it in New York, but it was just really someone making a play with no rules and looking at her heritage and looking at what it is to
I think it's Celine's Song, yeah?
the Celine Song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that just moved
Yeah.
me again, just breaking the rules. Again, I think that's like another theme of COVID, like just do anything you want because the world
Yeah.
is fucked.
What was the pool aspect of it? When I was in high school, we did metamorphoses and we built a pool.
I did that in high school too, Jess. Did we talk about this?
What? Who did you play?
Well, there were about two guys doing drama in my high school, so I got to play three parts in that.
All of them.
But my favorite was playing Phaeton, the son of Apollo, who's like he's in the psychiatrist's office, but he's just floating on top of the water, and like his whole thing is happening on a floaty.
Did your high school build a pool?
They built a pool. We did it in the round, and
yeah.
they built the pool and put water in the middle in the round.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was magic.
We had that too, and then everybody was trying to figure out how to like break in off hours to like fucking swim in the pool, and they were so serious about it. They were like, "Don't do it." I played. Oh God, I can't even remember her name. It was the one where they become birds.
The Love of the Nightingale.
Is that what it was?
It's also a Mary Zimmerman play.
Yeah, the Mary Zimmerman.
Oh, it's part of Metamorphosis.
It was part of Metamorphosis. It's the one where he goes off to sea and she like mourns.
Yeah, the Alcyone, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And
that
then
was you played her.
Yeah. And then I was one of the old people that become a tree together at the end.
Oh, nice.
Aww.
Yeah.
It was a fun play. It was really good.
Yeah, we got so sick. Everybody in the cast got so sick after doing that because we were all just like teenagers with mono in water together.
It's really a recipe for disaster. No people should be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
You know what? I've actually taken up swimming since COVID has happened.
Della luckily lives in a place with a pool.
Yeah, it's a little grimy, but it's not too bad. But
no, I was gonna say, like, this is where we discover you've actually just been going like out to public pools and totally violating all the rules of COVID. Yeah.
No, they have one out here and no one uses it in the daytime, so I get up early and just use it. And apparently COVID can't spread through swimming.
I have heard that. I heard like it's safe to it's more just like airborne, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I think the nerdiest rabbit hole I've gone down, you guys, since this all started. I've been working on my music a lot, and so playing guitar. And what's been really fun is actually getting like quality recordings of some of the songs I've written. There's another NYU Playwrights Horizons artist who I co-write songs with, Ari Hayter, and she and I have been finally putting a bunch of our songs like together, like studio versions of those. And that was something like we kept procrastinating on because it was sort of like, this is our hobby and we go to coffee houses on occasion. But I was like, well, I may as well get better at guitar. I felt like I'd sort of plateaued before the pandemic, and it was like one of those opportunities to be like, well, why don't I just get much better at this and actually go down this path. So nerding out big time on music, which has been.
When can we listen to it?
I'll
Wow.
set some stuff. I'll get my guitar right back.
That's
Not
like,
that I'm literally in my
don't
apartment.
make me sing and
Yeah.
What do you mean?
right there, prepped. Totally.
Um,
Uh, what was the last thing that everybody did? Like, what was your last gig before COVID?
Oh,
yeah. Mine was
I think. Wait, I think I could ask that better. What is the last project that you worked on before COVID?
what kind of gig are you talking about here?
Yeah, what was your gig? What was your gig
Yeah.
before COVID?
Let's talk about gigs, okay?
Such a gig.
Dell,
that is a good question. It feels a blurry, distant memory. Uh, I've had things through COVID because I do voiceover. So
yeah.
voiceover has um, been okay through this time. Um, what did I last do? Can someone else answer this while I have a
Well,
think?
the last play that I got to do,
Mm,
I did in February, and it it feels oddly very separate from what we're going through now, and oddly similar. It was a play about two Holocaust survivors, and one of the things that um, it was very strange to go from that straight into this experience. I will say, and all of us cast members got very close from it. It was a cast of four, and so one of the cast members like sent us all this meme that had a girl sitting down and reading the diary by Anne Frank, and her mom walks into the room and she's sitting there and she's like, "How's it going in here and during quarantine?" And the girl's like, "Well, I can't complain right now." Um, and it's true, because you're like, well, it's interesting. We've been at this for 6 months, and it feels like the strangest thing that's ever happened in our lives, and yet there is precedent to this in history in terms of like people having to be sequestered, and then of course the pandemic prior to that, and so yeah, it gave me sort of a historical perspective on that too, of like life isn't all that bad, and what you guys were saying is like, yeah, you make of this what you can creatively. That's our job as artists. So it was definitely it was hard to do that play. I will say it was really hard, and then to come out of that straight into this experience, I think has given me some good perspective though. So yeah, that was the last thing I did.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say because I took a year off from acting for a little bit, and which was really amazing. Actually, it's one of the best things that I've ever done. And so I think the last thing I did before that was like a Toyota commercial. But like during that year, I was like, I don't want to be an actor. I don't want to audition. I like broke up with my representation, and I just took a year
It
to.
feels like such a breakup, doesn't it?
It does.
Like,
It really does. It
yeah.
was really harsh, actually.
Yeah.
But I think I was turning 30, and I think I was feeling like, you know, my whole life I've been defined by this role that I play. Like,
Mm.
who am I outside of it? What, can I like fall back in love with it? Because I was feeling really like burnt out on auditioning and stuff like that. Um, and and then I did, and then I like fell back in love with like my creative stuff, and I realized like, okay, I want to do this, but I want to do it. Here's what I want to do, and here's why I want to do it, and I'm just gonna let that be my North Star and guide me. And I feel like it's given me the ability to say like no to things more. It's given me the ability to really not try to not try to be what somebody wants me to be, or
Yeah.
you can have that feeling sometimes as an actor, which is I can do this and I can do that, and I can, just tell me what you want. And instead of doing that, I feel like I've come to a place of, okay, what feels really purposeful for me, and what do I want to say, and what projects do I want to be a part of, and let that guide me a little bit more. Um, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
But weirdly, like I feel like I've still been able to do that and to be like, okay, what drives me? What do I want to be a part of? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to be using this time? So I feel like it set me up like really well
Yeah. Well,
during
totally, because you're on a path of seeking artistic independence as it is, right? And like once you already have that momentum going, it totally serves you in this time. I found of just being like, what do I when you wake up today, what do you want to be doing? And like,
Yeah.
um, there are moments where you're like, I wish I didn't have to have that conversation with me every single day when I wake up, but like, then you get that, and you get that opportunity. So there's ways of looking at it. I think that framing it for yourself where you're like, yeah, I want that independence. I always wanted it. So
yeah. Yeah, it weirdly didn't feel as scary to kind of like do things my own way during this time. I think because that was like the how I how I went into this time.
Mhm.
Um, not to say not to say that there aren't struggles, but I've felt at least creatively like there's there's like something that I'm going towards that feels really right
mm,
for me.
yeah. I know we're like half hour in, you guys, and at some point, I know Jer wanted us to maybe open it up to questions if anybody had them outside of us. But I also wanted to check in about like keeping up with the Adler community, because that's how all of us kind of got together. And is that something that you guys have felt like you've been able to do over the last 10 years or so?
I never talked to Della. I refuse to speak to Della. I'm done with her.
Yeah, in order to have this Zoom today, like I had to placate them. I had to call each of them
Yeah,
individually.
the
It's
smiles
gonna
are
be
fake.
okay. Just don't curse each other out.
Um, Della's one of my best friends. I feel like we speak all the time, and
All
Doug
the time.
all the
Yeah.
time. And then I feel like we keep up relatively good contact. I think, um, especially Adler and LA people, because the history is me, Jeremy, Doug, Della. We all did a program that brought us out to LA for a summer, um, and so it really was kind of the beginning of all of us moving here. And so we were the family, we were the community that everybody had in LA. So I feel like, yeah, those people, I feel like a lot of them I definitely still know. And then other people from NYU who have moved out to
Yeah.
LA. I think NYU just in general has been a great friend group. I always joke that most of my friends out here went to NYU, but I never met them there. And that's very true. I would say that's like 70% of my friends.
Yeah.
Um, and it's because you kind of have this common thing that brings you together, which is like you all went to acting school together. Like you all, like New York and acting school and theater and kind of like that whole world, I think, can be a centering thing and something to consistently connect on.
Hmm.
When you guys moved out to LA, for me it was kind of obvious and something that I was always gonna do. I felt like because I grew up in the Bay Area and like I was always a California kid, and I wanted that, but it was totally different story for you guys. Um, like, was that something that you always knew you wanted, and 10 years later you're like, oh, totally made the right call? Like my sister-in-law asked me, I was up quarantining with my family, as you mentioned, Jess, and she was like, if you could live in any city right now, which one would it be? And I was like, well, I can't because nobody can travel right now. But I was like, it would be LA. Like that's where I want to be. Just like, isn't that cool that you still are making that choice 10 years later in the same way that like as an artist doing your own independent path, you're making a choice every day. Like, do you guys feel the same way about LA, or what was it like? First of all, this is multifaceted, I guess, but first of all, choosing to go out there here, and then staying and making that choice.
I want to hear Dallas speak on this.
Well, that's because I was the hater of LA. You guys were set, and I was so sure
we,
I'd go back to
we
New
had to
York.
be the one to woo you. I
You
feel.
guys were me. No,
Yeah.
that's why I moved here, is because I did not like LA. I don't think even by the time I chose to stay here, I had seen that much of LA, except our little Martel Santa Monica.
A 7-Eleven right there? Yeah.
And Della also didn't have a car, nor did she know how to drive initially. So you really were just like at the whim of like whatever you could walk to.
I really wasn't. I like these
So
guys.
true.
Let's just jump in on their
Remember
dream.
Pat and me giving you driving lessons too.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I still always feel a little bit like a new driver, but I'm a good driver now. So, yeah, no, I had no desire to be here, and I think I still often do question LA. But I just love the people here and all the things that I have found here. I don't know if I would find them anywhere else. So everything I've discovered has been so important in my life and really shaped and changed me in a way that I'm really grateful for. But I have been questioning it, especially because, even right now, or auditions or voiceover, technically we can be anywhere in the world, right? And last year I was really questioning it, and I did a little trip. Jeremy, I went to Toronto where I saw you, and I went to see Chicago. I think I was just trying to like place where I would want to be, but I think I'm still here for a reason. So I think I will always question LA. I feel like I'm going to be the one with grandkids and like a whole rooted family here one day. So for me, it's like something I never wanted to love, but it's so I don't see myself leaving. What about you, Jess?
I've always been a lover of LA, and um, I yeah, it feels like the best place to be for specifically like what I want to do in terms of storytelling. And I was always, when I was at NYU, I felt like I never really, like I would have conversations with friends who were like, yeah, like I want to do like an experimental piece in like the downtown theater scene using like this found medium, and I would be like, I don't get it. Like I don't like, for some reason, like it never really, and then the things that I would get the most excited by at NYU were when we had like directors come in and show us their films, and we had like, you know, talkbacks with showrunners, and kind of some of the more like mainstream film and TV stuff was always the thing that excited me and got me um, really, really interested, and was ultimately like what I wanted to make. And so, as much as that's definitely done in New York and definitely done other places, it felt like this was a big hub for that. And so that's why I wanted to come here. And I see myself staying here. I do have like a fantasy about like moving to New York when I'm like 60, and just like, because I feel like New York is a place to I don't know. I feel like it just caters to like older people. I have it's totally something I've made up, but it's just like I just envision myself like getting lunch with like my lady friends that we met, and like going to the theater and like being like, I want a better seat. Like all of these things feel like, yes, I can see myself as like a New Yorker in my late years. But
I
yeah.
have such nostalgia for it too. Like it's one of those things where I can't live there right now, but every time I go back, there's a magic about it for sure. And I do feel the same way, that like it would be a place to tour around with my grandkids and be like, back when I was 21, I walked through this park here.
To get wasted at Limericks. Like.
Yes, oh my gosh, Limerick. Do you know what though? On this question, I have late night Airbnb'd or looked on Craigslist for escape places that I know I would never actually go to, but places that have been looked at were the desert. I was like, maybe I'm a desert person.
Mm-hmm.
So Joshua Tree, I was like, maybe I'll just rent a place and move here for a few months. But I think that would be quite a lot of isolation.
Yeah.
And Chicago, that maybe I'll be a Chicago person. Toronto, I looked at that again, but I don't know if I'm actually acting on it or if this is just a hobby.
Yeah. late night scouring the internet for
Yeah.
your getaways. By the way, don't use Airbnb. I'm going to plug that right now because they're screwing people over on fees during the
Oh,
pandemic.
really?
Yeah.
Why?
They're keeping service fees even though people had to cancel because of the virus. So
Oh my
um,
goodness.
that's my plug for artists not to use Airbnb right now.
Doug, are you working on anything right now? Yes, I'm taking
Yeah.
down Airbnb.
I'm taking them down, and they're $1 billion business. So that is what I'm working on. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to open it up to anybody in who's not a video participant who wants to ask a question. You can like type it in the message box here. But we'll keep going, you guys. And if anybody pops in with a question, we should check in with them. But what's the weirdest thing that's happened to you since March, Jess?
The weirdest thing?
Yeah. Or like a quarantine challenge that you overcame of some kind.
Jess actually made a quarantine challenge, which was cool.
This is true.
What do you mean?
Your scavenger hunt.
Scavenger hunt.
Oh, I did. I'll say really briefly that I felt like a bunch of my friends were stir crazy and I was stir crazy, and especially my good friend Christy, who loves games and is pregnant, was feeling very stir crazy. And so I was like, I'm gonna make a scavenger hunt for all of my friends, and I did, and it was very silly and it was like very safe because we could all have masks on and mostly do everything from your car, and it was just kind of like running around LA and
And it was basically on your birthday too. It was like a few days after your birthday.
it was the week after my birthday. I really should have just done it for my birthday, but I
Well,
was selfish.
I will just say, like, that's a cool thing about being your friend is that, like, you want everybody else to have a good time on your birthday. Like, you curate an amazing experience for someone else.
Unlike me, who just wants me to.
Everybody come.
It's true. I'm a big games person on my birthday. We just got something in the
We got a
chat.
question. Yeah.
What do you think and hope our industry will look like post-pandemic? That's a good question.
A lot to unpack with that one, I think. I like what we were talking about today, you guys, about the independence and how that would apply to the industry is kind of interesting, right? I mean, it seems like, well, first of all, I hope theater gets back on track as quickly as possible. I think that's been one of the things that I've missed most in pandemic and during the pandemic is just like, there was a great video from the artistic director at the Guthrie who was talking about how he knows theater is going to survive. It's been around for 4,000 years. When we come out of this in the pandemic, it'll still be there in some capacity. I know that theaters are shutting down, a lot of them right now, which is really sad. But he said that one of the great things about it, they did a study in 2017, I think, where they did a show that they took people's, a few different people in the audience's heartbeats during a show, during a drama, and found that after, like, at a certain point in the play, at certain points, all of their heartbeats were beating at the same time, which was amazing. It was showing sort of the empathy that theater specifically can give to people, right? And that's what we're lacking right now. And so I hope that theater comes back stronger than ever. And I'm curious what that's going to look like. I think one of the cool things I've been reading about are these like immersive experiences where people get taken through parks. And it's very much like Sleep No More, except outdoors, and the audience has COVID masks on right now. And so I'm hopeful, you know, even in LA, maybe to start something like that when cases are back down on the decline. I think that's a possibility. And so that's sort of what I'm hopeful for. Yeah.
My response to this question is it has less to do with the pandemic, but I think that the pandemic made room for a big national attention on Black Lives Matter. And my big hope is that the like attention that is being given to that, and specifically like what has been happening in our country and what really needs to change gets to become a part of the stories that we're telling, and the ways in which we're impacting change. Like, um, there is something to the representation of, Black people on cop shows, that has a direct correlation with like you know how we view police and Black people in crime in general. And I think that to um, to have a spotlight on that, and to be able to say, okay, we need more representation, we need to speak on these issues more, we need to also really get rid of a lot of stereotypes that we have, and a lot of the ways in which we've not given platforms to different voices, and to people who really need to be seen and need to be spotlighted. I think is something that I'm really hopeful for change.
Yeah.
Post pandemic. Della?
I mean, both of what you guys have said, I feel like I want. What? Yeah, I just wait for you guys to say things and agree. But no, I want it to be totally different, but I do miss the connection element of things for sure. But I think hopefully it will. I mean, I'm curious what everyone's writing right now, and we're just in such a clash of so much happening and so much change. I just really hope that, yeah, that it doesn't forget what's happening right now. I hope this time is given the breath to kind of continue out in art when we get back to, future life, rather than forgetting about this and going back to the status quo.
That's a good point. I think it's easy to feel like wow, this was a horrible time, and I just want to get past it. Like, no, experience it. And what is it? What do you want out of it? And how can we, as Jess is saying, affect positive social change from the current movement?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have another question, you guys, from Jessica. She asks, at some point in your life, have you ever doubted yourself as an actor or actress? Why have you chosen this career path? And what particular experience or project made it well worth it to you? So, Del, do you want to start that?
Yeah, I doubt myself all of the time. Not just as an actor. So, yes. And why? I feel like that has shifted as to why I've chosen this career path so many times, and I have to keep killing the reason and phrasing or reshaping the reason I'm doing it. And right now, do you know what? It is kind of selfish. The reason that is, I don't know if it's selfish, but I'm doing it for me. And I think somewhere along the way, I wasn't doing it. Again, kind of what we were talking about. I think it's easy to there's so many outside voices and outside opinions, and slowing down and really looking. I think, we've been talking about this, identity, checking in with things like that, what I want to be presenting of myself, all of that, I'm in this discovery of myself right now, and that's a little selfish, but it's also, I guess we got to do that sometimes. And what particular project made it well worth the while? I'm working on something right now that I'm just so excited about, but I can't really say anything about it. It literally fits into everything I just said. So maybe something. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. What about you guys?
Well, first of all, I feel like the atmosphere is saying thumbs up to your career choice right now. You got the sun shining on you, and it's beautiful. And I doubt myself too. I think you can't. I don't think I've met an actor who doesn't at some point. I think that's part of being an artist, is experiencing doubt, and what you do with that is make art. Like, right? Like, how do I cope with this, and how do I make it interesting? I think that's one of the fun, like a project I'm working on right now is writing a song that's sort of upbeat, but also talking about how fucking crazy we feel sometimes inside of our houses. And like, that's been a fun challenge of like, okay, how do I turn something that maybe could make me miserable into something that gives me joy? I think as artists, that's our job to create that kind of thing, whether it's on film and TV, or whether it's your own project that you're creating. And so um, for me, yeah, like what's made it worthwhile is meeting as many like just astoundingly interesting people over the years as possible, right? You get to meet so many cool, strange people. Like, I think it's so fun to meet weird people, um, because you get a chance to sort of pick their brains and feel like, oh, that's how they can frame this situation, so it gives out light and joy in some cool way. And yeah, I don't know if I can pinpoint one project right now. I did get a chance during the last show I did, and then they came for me, the show about the two Holocaust survivors, to meet one of the Holocaust survivors. And he was on Skype and would have come to see the show, except that she was giving a talk in Hong Kong about the Holocaust like while we were doing the show. But she's 93, and was telling me about her brother who like didn't survive. And it was obviously heart-wrenching, but amazing to me too, because she kept him in her memory so much, and as a result, I now keep him in my memory. And it was kind of this cool, beautiful transference of, oh, this is how we empathize with each other. We tell each other's stories, and it was a great reminder of that. So I don't know. Every time I get a chance to do a project like that sort of opens me up, I'm grateful to have this career. So.
That's such a beautiful moment, Doug, and to kind of like see the impact of that so directly. And to, I don't know, yeah, there's a great like care that you take with other people's stories, and anytime anytime you get any person in an audience, or who just saw something, who's able to say like, this was really helpful for me, or this was really that's a really that's a yeah, it's a really important moment. um, yeah yeah, I feel like um, my answer to this, or the thing that came to mind, was I worked on a project called War Games, and it was this interactive show. It was supposed to be like a reboot of the War Games movie that came out in the 80s. And the interactive aspect of um, it was like, hey, you've been training for this your whole life. Now go and do the hardest thing ever, and like use every tool that you have in the book in order to do it. um, because with this particular script, it was hundreds of pages, um, because every single, it's hard to explain, but every single episode you would kind of like ladder off into, it was almost like a video game. You would ladder
Yeah.
off into like four different scenarios, and those would ladder off into four other different scenarios. And and so we were filming these scenes back to back to back, where my character just would like get angry in one moment, or get really like upset in the next moment, or would blame somebody in the next moment, or would take the blame on herself, and try to make all of them kind of come together and make sense. And
Yeah.
it was so hard, but it was also so affirming. It was like, oh, okay, you've been studying this since you were 8 years old, and you get to say like, okay, here's what I need to use for this, and here's what I need to use for this. And the prep of that project was this like, it was kind of this voice saying like, you didn't waste your time. Like you actually like, you studied and you trained and you learned Chekhov and Shakespeare, and like, and film acting, and and you get to bring it all into this project. And so it felt really rewarding.
That's awesome. I love when you have those moments of like, everything in my life has been building towards this. It's
Yeah.
like, but those happen, every once in a while. You feel like, oh, this isn't just I spent this week doing this thing, right? This is I spent my life. I spent my life getting ready for that. Like there's something really powerful about that to me. Like the sort of lifetime achievement of that. And I think that's a really cool thing to remember and to like it helps you not doubt yourself, I think, as an actor.
Yeah.
You guys, it's almost 5 and I figure an hour, but I don't know if anything else you want to bring up before we wrap things up. I don't know if Jer or Olivia want to first of all, I want to say thank you guys for hosting this. This is so cool that you guys are finding a way to get artists around the world to collaborate with each other and chat and stay in contact. Like, thank you guys. Great. Yeah, there you are. Good to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on today. This was such a wonderful discussion, and I really, really enjoyed listening to you guys. I hope it was nice for you guys to catch up in this environment.
It really was.
Yeah, because that's a big part I wanted to speak to before I let you go, because I've been sitting here like cheering this on this time. It's been so inspiring to listen to you guys talk. But jumping back to what you said, Della, a few comments ago about feeling selfish almost during this time, I've been thinking a lot recently about art for art's sake and art for artists' sake. And a big reason that we wanted to start Artists in Residence was to kind of acknowledge and own the fact that we as artists enjoy making art, and we enjoy talking to each other about it. We enjoy working on it. We've been doing some like Zoom play readings just for fun too. Jess, like you've been doing these script readings of TV shows, which I think is so fun. And I'm trying to reframe it in my mind sometimes as being, I mean, I think the impulse is, it feels a little selfish, but I feel that I'm trying to reframe it in my head as there's maybe not that much, or that I think we all have to have a little bit of that if we want to be doing what we're trying to do here with acting and performing and being involved in the arts and whatnot. And I feel like, I don't know, I just wonder if anyone has any further thoughts on that idea.
Yeah, absolutely okay to do your job in this time, right? I think that's what's strange is that, you're hearing some of the vitriol of like, well, I can't remember, it was Melania Trump, somebody saying like, we'll just get another job. You're like, well, but no, I trained my whole life for this, right? So like right now, my job is to create art in this environment. And if you're not going to support that, like, okay, but I'm going to support it and I'm going to be around other people that can support it and want to be a part of it. And it's, I don't think selfish is such a word that we use to feel bad about ourselves, but in fact, it can be so therapeutic and important and healing. So yeah, that's my thought on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I continue to think like we're artists. I mean, we're humans first, we're artists second. So just as much as it matters to, inspire the audience, inspire others to make change, to come out of this time reflecting upon, the world and our humanity, we deserve to, I mean, our mental health and our health and enjoyment of our experience on this planet is worthwhile as well.
I think that like I feel like I've seen kind of like memes saying something to this effect, which is like, what has been keeping you sane during this time? Like it's been artists, it's been the music that you listen to, it's been the TV shows that you're watching, it's been the films that you're watching, it's been the theater Zooms that you've tuned into, it's been the books that you've been reading, everything that is I think allowing for a lot of self-care for the entire world that's going through this thing has been art. And so I don't see it as being selfish to be an artist, because during these times it makes it so clear how vital it is. Like I think that a lot of people would be having an incredibly difficult time during this time if there were no artists, if there was no art going on, if there was no um, ability to kind of maintain connection in a time where you can't be, in the same room as people. You maintain a connection to your humanity by being, um, by surrounding yourself with art. And so I think all of us can maybe take from this, like, what we do is really important, I think.
Like Adler said, right? Life beats down, crushes your soul, and art reminds you that you have one.
Yeah, Adler.
She was talking about 100 years ago.
She knew.
You come out of that pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Thank you. That was beautifully said, guys.
Yeah, everything I said was really beautiful. And I also like how you said that not to just get past this and to move on. It's to really embrace this, and a lot has happened. And it's like you said, a lot of good and interesting theater is going to come from what we just experienced, and we'll continue to experience.
Hopeful for that, for sure. And thanks to everybody who tuned in and listened. That was cool too, to have people asking questions and inspiring us to talk about it. So, yeah.
Thank you guys again.
Yes, of course. Thank you. And with that.
Well, love you guys. Yeah, very much.
You guys. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks for everybody who tuned in.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.